Welcome back, rankers. Well, the big news this week, in case you haven't heard, is that Google has pulled out of China. Well, that's what everyone's saying. They actually haven't pulled out of China. All they've done is they have redirected Google.cn to Google.hk. So if we go and have a look at, there's Google.cn there. We click on that. It takes us to Google.com.hk. And the reason for that is that Google has decided to give the Chinese people unfettered access to information within their index anyway. China seems to be still blocking certain websites, but Google is saying we're no longer going to censor our results. Now, this is big news because with Australia heading down the track of getting an internet filter, it just shows how ridiculous it is when Google has decided to pull out of China, and China can't even make the internet filter work. They've gone to the extent of actually installing filters on individual PCs because they can't make an ISP level filter work. But spare a thought this morning for all the Chinese SEO companies out there. They've just, Google.cn no longer exists for them. They've spent all this time getting companies ranked presumably in Google.cn, and now it's all gone. Now, interestingly though, if we go and have a look at Google.cn and their headers, we can see here that Google.cn has got a 302 redirect. 302 redirect is a temporary redirect. A 301 is a permanent redirect. I find that interesting because I wonder why Google would only do a 302. Obviously, they still have their data centers in China. They haven't pulled those out overnight. But they're basically saying this is a temporary redirect. So who knows? Maybe they're hoping for some negotiation down the track where they can reinstate Google.cn and let people search in China locally. Anyway, but just in case you want an update on the internet filter, well, even if you don't, you're going to get one. The Labor, the ALP caucus has decided to postpone the introduction of the bill into Parliament until the next sitting. Presumably because, well, as the scuttlebutt goes, there's a lot of opposition to it at government level, and even though Senator Conroy seems to be keen on pushing the thing through. Also, this last week there was a story on Smart Company. Well, the story was this week. The incident happened last week about DealsDirect getting blocked. Well, the headline there is Google's blocking DealsDirect, and then it goes on to say that Google was blacklisted. It actually wasn't blacklisted. What happens is that sometimes a site will get hacked, and Google will detect this, and they will then put a little note up in the Google search results when that company appears in the results to say that this site may harm your computer if it's hosting malicious software. Now, most of these hacks, they're not really not your traditional hack of some nerd sitting there in front of the computer trying to bring a site down. They're basically worms or viruses that travel from server to server. What you can do to try to find out, and I recommend this if you're having trouble ranking, I recommend you do this for your hosting company, is you can go to the site called, and I've talked about this one before, but Google.com Safe Browsing Diagnostic. Just go and Google Safe Browsing Diagnostic and you'll find this page. But I've just put in here DealsDirect.com.au, and you can see up here it says that this part of this site was listed for suspicious activity 3 times over the last 90 days. And you can see there that there was successfully infected a bunch of machines and had malicious trojans and all sorts of nasty stuff. I would also go and put your hosting company's web address in there as well to find out whether they're getting hacked. Because a lot of these hacks or worms are purely because the server hasn't been patched. And there are updates for all these sorts of things to protect your server, and make sure you have a hosting company that is doing all those sorts of things. If this does happen, we've had it happen to quite a few clients. There's a couple of things you've got to do. You've got to get into Webmaster Tools. You have to basically let Google know that the site is now fixed, and please revisit it. And usually it will, the message in the search results will disappear quite quickly once you do that. Finally today, Michelle Archard has asked us a question. Hi Michelle, good to hear from you. Asking about white papers, and she's asked the question, if an organisation publishes white papers or ebooks or anything like that, are they better to have in PDF or HTML? Well, if you can put it in HTML, I would put it in HTML. Google will crawl a PDF, but there's a few things that Google isn't being clear about with PDFs, whether they carry through the anchor text, say in a link, or if they treat a PDF the exact same way as they do a HTML document. Matt Cutts a couple of weeks ago actually said that, well, if you can do it in HTML, do it in HTML. And Michelle has also suggested she thought best practice would be to do it in HTML and then also do a PDF so people can download and print the thing, but make sure that you follow the link to the PDF, which is good advice. I like the way you think, Michelle. Yeah, I would do that too. And that way you can have the best of both worlds and you don't get duplicate content by having the PDF and the HTML up there. The other good thing about PDFs is that if you're out there publishing ebooks or white papers, they can be like a backlink trojan. And by that I mean that if you encourage people to download your PDF and maybe republish it somewhere else or a white paper, just make sure you have a bunch of backlinks in it that are relevant, of course, to the document, back to your site, because then every time that document gets republished, you are getting another backlink to your site. And that is it for today's show. Sorry I couldn't get to all the questions this week, and we'll get to the other ones next week, and we'll see you next.